I love these two tools. I just wish I could use this guy with every brake system out there like I can this guy. Hey folks, we are back with another video. Today we are going to be doing a brake bleed on a SRAM Guide Ultimate brake set, right? I'm only going to be doing the front brake. Actually, I don't need to do both of them. And the reason I'm doing the front brake is a lot easier to manage the camera up and down, right? As opposed to side to side. I'm only one guy here. So personally, when it comes to bleeding, I think SRAM by far has the better solution overall, right? When compared to Shimano. And I got two sets of SRAMs, two sets of Shimano brakes. And not that I have any issues with Shimano, but SRAM's method states that we want to empty out downwards. In other words, push from the lever down to the caliper and then empty out, right? Which makes a lot of sense because reality is when it comes to brake and brake fluids, no matter DOT or mineral oil, if there's any kind of discoloration, if there's any kind of dirt, and trust me, especially mineral oil, that stuff could get black. All that's going to happen down at the caliper. 90% of that's happening down at the caliper, right? So Shimano states, take the syringe, fill it up, and then push everything up. And I disagree with that because you're taking all that gunk from the bottom and bringing it up through the lever and then into the reservoir, right? So, and I disagree with that. And I will be making a video on bleeding Shimano brakes the same way I bleed SRAM brakes, right? So to give you an idea, you know, why it's better essentially, right, to do it the SRAM method. And also, I'm not a big fan of gravity bleeds. Personally, if you already have syringes, use the syringe, man. Nothing beats vacuum. Nothing beats pressure and vacuum to agitate a system in order to be able to get bubbles out of small places. And I have a video where I took apart completely a caliper and you could see all the small holes, all the small areas where air could get trapped, right? And to move air from one side to the other one via gravity alone, not that easy. Not that you would gravity bleed a SRAM brake system, but you would a Shimano, right? So in a sense, I don't want to say it's a comparison, but ultimately I will be doing back-to-back videos, SRAM bleeds versus Shimano bleeds, okay? So next up, let's go over the tools needed to get this job done. We are going to be needing a 2.5 millimeter Allen in order to remove the bolt that holds in the brake pads. Now, we're going to be cleaning the calipers, the pistons basically in the calipers. And to do that, we're going to need some kind of like pretty rough bristles or hard bristles, right? With some alcohol in order to get in there. But more importantly, what we're going to want to do is bring them out a little bit, expose them a little bit, right? And to do that, you're going to need either two tire levers or a brake pad tool. In fact, with the dual pot caliper, brake pad tool works pretty good actually, but two, well, these are tire levers, will come in handy, right? In all reality, we need one. This one's broke, but I only need this one to block two pistons. So, but two good working tire levers will work, right? And then when we're prepped, we're going to need a bleed block. Again, this is a SRAM Guide Ultimate, so I got the Guide Ultimate bleed block. Make sure you use the bleed block appropriate for your brakes, all right? So then on the lever side, we're going to need a marker of some sort that you can remove with alcohol in order to mark the lever position on the handlebar, because we are going to, unless your bleed port's facing up, we're going to want to lift that lever in order to make sure the bleed port is at the highest point, right? So we are going to be needing a T10 Torx. Why SRAM? A T10 Torx for the bleed hole on the lever. And well, we're going to be needing a T25 in order to move the lever, right? I don't get it, SRAM. T25s on the handlebars, and yet you go with Allens on your calipers. It's just, I can't make this stuff up. So, I have a Guide Ultimate, and it has the bleeding edge tool. I love this thing. This thing's great. Shimano needs to get on board with something similar. But we're going to want to loosen the bolt that this plugs into, basically. So a 4 millimeter Allen could be used to that. Either that, or you could just plug this in and try and open it, but why bother? Just loosen it and close it. I'll show you how that works, right? So we're going to be needing syringes, one for the lever, and in my case, a bleeding edge for the caliper. Yours might be identical to the lever. It all depends on what kind of caliper you have or what kind of brake set you have, right? We will be needing dot 5.1 brake fluid. Don't buy this particular bottle or brand if you have if you have a brake caliper that uses the bleeding edge, because this don't fit inside. So I got to work around that. I know how to work around it. This is all they had in stock in my local bike shop, so I just ended up buying that. You're going to need somewhere to dispose of .5 fluid and dispose it appropriately. Be responsible, right? Give it to your local bike shop when you're all done. They will have a means to dispose it for you. Do not put it down the sink. Do not put it down the toilet. Do not put it in the garbage. This stuff's pretty caustic. It's pretty bad. So definitely dispose it the right way. All right, guys? Paper towels. And I will be changing my brake pads because I'm putting new brake rotors on this bike. So I'm going to be changing the pads all the way around, right? So, yeah, that's pretty much it for the tools. Up next, let's start bleeding some brakes. All right, so first we have to prep the caliper, right? So on the caliper, on the inside where the bleeding edge port is, there is a rubber cap. We're going to take that cap, we're going to put it on the side, right? Now, on the bolt that holds the brake pads, there is a clip. Make sure to remove the clip. Do not forget to remove this clip, but do not throw it out. Keep this clip, we need it. All right, put that on the side. So then we're going to take our 2.5 millimeter Allen and unthread the bolt. All right, and we're going to take that out. We're going to put that on the side. Now we're going to take out our brake pads. Okay. Now brake pads, you inspect them. Basically the whole idea is to see how much metal there is beyond this retaining clip, basically the spring clip I should say, right? So these are actually brand new, so well, I'm just going to put them on the side, right? If you find that the pads are right at the edge of that spring clip, then you need to replace your brake pads, right? But these are good. We're going to put them on the side. Now, these are 4-pot brakes, right? Or 4-piston brakes. You got 2 piston and 4 piston. Now, what I always do since I'm here is I try and make sure that one, all the pistons come out evenly when pressing the brake lever, okay? Because you want even pressure hitting your rotor, okay, from all pistons. Now, it's never going to be perfectly even, but you want it as close as possible. What happens is, over time, mineral build up on the walls, on the edge of the pistons, basically, and they slow it down or even stop it from well, just coming out when you press on the lever, right? So the way you do that is you take the lever and you slowly, lightly press it, and you look at the action, right? Now, what we're going to do is try and take them out, let's say about 2 to 3 millimeters, just like that. And these actually look real good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take alcohol, we're going to spray inside. Then we're going to take our brush, right, and try and clean the inside of those walls, right, just like that. Okay. Take a paper towel, tear it in half, put it through the caliper, pull it at the other side, and rub back and forth and try and sort of wipe around those walls, the piston outer diameter walls. Okay. Now what we're going to do is take our tool and put the pistons all the way in again. All right, just like that, if you can see it. That's one set. And this is, let me see if I can do it this way. All right. And boom. Now, let's press the brake lever again, see what happens. See, as you notice, they are pretty much coming out evenly. That's a good thing. That's a really good thing. All right? So that's even pressure through all of them. Rear brake is going to be more finicky. Rear brake is always more finicky. So now I'm going to take all the pistons and put them in. Okay. And then take my bleed block and put them in and shove them in there, right? Shove them in there and then press your handle and we are good. The bottom of the caliper is prepped. Now let's go prep the lever. So now we got to prep the lever, right? So we're going to take our marker and we're going to mark the handlebar and the clamp, just to know where to rotate them back to next, right? Then we're going to take our T25, we're going to loosen the clamp, and we're going to pick it up basically level. All right, just about there. Is that in frame? That's not in frame. Let's pick it up just a little bit. Next, what we want to do is measure the distance from the tip to the bar, okay? So in this case, I am 57 millimeters on this bike, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to bring out the handle a bit. We know it's 57 it needs to go back to, okay? Now, this is a Guide Ultimate. I have a contact pad adjuster, and I need to bring it to the opposite side. There's an arrow over here. I don't know if you can see it well, but there's an arrow that points down. I need to bring this back all the way to the beginning. So the opposite of the arrow right to the end, okay? So this one had about 4 clicks. All right, next we prep the syringes. So now we want to fill up these syringes with oil, right? Now, again, I totally agree with SRAM's method of bleeding brakes. Start with filling up the lever syringe and then empty in the caliper syringe. And then what I do is empty out the caliper syringe, fill the caliper syringe, and bleed upwards, right, via vacuum using this syringe. I'll show you, you'll see how it works. It's really easy. I find it the most bulletproof way, right? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to want to fill up our lever syringe, right? So in my case, my lever syringe, well, looks like a typical syringe for SRAM brakes, right? This is the bleeding edge. This goes to the caliper. So I'm going to take it, make sure your tab is open over here, right? I'm going to sink this guy in here, and we're going to fill him up, right? Now this is a front brake. I don't have to fill them up all the way. So, but I'm going to fill them up enough to empty them out, right? So what we're going to do now, you notice there's air in here, right? So we're going to empty out the whole thing. And what we want to do is press up, first grab a piece of paper towel. Oops, a little nuts there, right? So turn this thing, face it up, and then we're going to press it up very slowly. And as you're pressing up, make sure all the air escapes through the tube. We want this free of air, only liquid inside that tube, right? So if you notice, I have a bubble down here, so that's no good. So I'm going to suck it back down. All right, as you can see, it's sucking back down. A little hard to show it this way, but then jiggle it around. Make sure all the bubbles mix with each other and make one big bubble. I got one little bubble over here that doesn't want to mix. Come on. There we go. It just mixed in. Then try and place this as level as possible as you're pressing in, and that should have done it. There we go. So then when you see oil coming out the top just like that, what we're going to do is take this guy and shut him. Now, don't buy this Maxima .51. Get the SRAM pit stops, something where this fits if you have a bleeding edge. This doesn't fit, so what I need to do with this one is use another syringe. Now this is going to go to the caliper, so I'm going to barely fill it up, right, to start with. I'm only going to do that much. That's all we need to do, right? Now what I'm going to do in my case, you shouldn't have to do this if you bought a .5 bottle that actually fits a bleeding edge syringe. I'm going to take it all down, then I'm going to change out the top. All right, put the bleeding edge tool in there. This guy on the side, and then I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, so again, we want to empty out all that air. So let's grab a paper towel, hold them on top, make sure we don't make a mess. Ooh, that came in real easy. Notice I have a bubble, not good. I want to bring it down again, Mix that bubble in there, make sure all the bubbles make one big bubble. And then, oh, come on, get in there. All right, just like that. And then we're going to bring them up again. If you notice, all of it now is done. I got some kind of particle in there. It's okay, this can empty out anyway. All right, so on this one, it doesn't really matter as much because we're going to empty out on this one to remove the bubbles when we start with, but still, it's good practice. Then we close this. So our syringes are prepped. Close our bottle so it doesn't spill. And now we are ready to connect them and start bleeding. Next, we install the syringes. Take our T10 and open up the bleed port. Now, actually, before you do that, make sure you got a paper towel with you because sometimes oil will come out, sometimes it won't come out, right? Open up the bleed port. Oil came out in this case. Careful with the oil. All right. Now make sure that the rubber seal is on the screw, the bleed screw, okay? We'll put that on the side. So first we're going to start with the lever syringe. We are going to take it and we're going to screw it in. Do not open up the clip yet, all right? First we have to put the bottom syringe in, which is coming up next. So now we have to put the syringe in the caliper. Now, I had bought a Park Tool mineral oil kit that came with this syringe holder. This thing is great. I don't know if Park Tool sells it separately. I never looked into it. If they do, go buy one. It makes bleeding, breaks, just that much easier. It's a much nicer experience, right? So I'm going to take this tool. I'm going to put it on the opposing side of the fork, right? Just like that. In fact, I might bring it a little bit higher. Okay. So now, I'm going to grab a 4mm Allen key. If you noticed over here, we have our bleeding edge port. What we're going to do is we're just going to open it a quarter turn and just lightly tighten it again, right? Just to loosen it up to make our lives easier with the bleeding edge tool itself. So now I'm going to take the bleeding edge tool, I'm going to pop it in there. You're going to hear a click, just like that. And now for me, I am going to just let the syringe sit in the holder, all right? Now let's go back on top. Actually, the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to pop open this clip. Okay, don't forget to pop open a clip. So now we start to bleed, right? We opened up the clip on the bottom syringe. Now we open up the clip on the top syringe. Now chances are that when you put the syringe in, that there's going to be an air bubble in here, all right? That's a very high chance. So what you want to do is sort of play with the lever and try and suck, there you go. Why take those bubbles down with you first round, right? So after we know that the air bubbles are gone like they are now, okay, I'm going to open up my bleeding port by about one turn, okay? Now, let's try it one more time. Oop, there goes another little bubble. Once they come up, now we could press down. So now as you notice, at the bottom syringe, that bubbles are going to come out. That's the air space that was between the bleeding edge and the caliper. And now we're going to be pushing oil down. Now, I frequently change my oils, so rarely do they ever come out discolored, but that's not to say that the oil's clean. This is dot fluid. It's hydroscopic, meaning it'll absorb oil, right? So now I'm all the way down. I emptied out this syringe. I'm going to close this syringe for now. All right. And then I'm going to go to the syringe at the bottom. And I'm going to close the bleeding edge. And I'm going to remove the syringe and empty out all this old oil. Okay, so if you notice, the oil is slightly discolored. To be honest, it looks like brand new. I could tell slightly, but that does not mean the oil is good. Again, this is hydroscopic. Water gets absorbed in over time, all right? So I'm going to empty out the syringe, and then I'm going to fill it back up with fluid, and I'm going to fill it up again halfway, all right? I will be back. So again, I emptied out the old oil. I filled it up halfway, just about halfway with new oil, okay? Now I'm going to put it back into the bleeding edge port. All right, make sure you hear the click. Snap open the button, turn it halfway. Before pushing up, what we're going to do is push down, well, actually, not push down, but pull up, sorry, my bad, just a little bit to make sure that those bubbles come out first. Okay? Just like that. You want to make sure there's no bubbles in here. There we go, that's the last of them coming up right now. See what I mean? If you were to push through now to bleed it out properly, you would have been pushing those little bubbles in. Here they come. And there they go. They just went up. So now we're ready to grab the top syringe. Now we're going to vacuum up. And as I vacuum up, you're going to notice the syringe on the bottom is going to pull down. Take your time. We want the first vacuum up. Oops. Make sure you unclick or unclip the clip there. Now, let's vacuum up. Don't do it too fast. When you have vacuum and you pull on syringes too fast, it's going to look like there's bubbles, but it's a false positive. What you're doing is you're bringing air out of the solution. So it's never going to impact you, right? You're just looking for the bubbles when there is no pressure, not when it's under vacuum, okay? See, for instance, those bubbles when I put on vacuum, when I pull up, there's vacuum, they show, but then once I release, they disappear. So I'm literally bringing them out of solution. If you scuba dive, then you'll be really familiar with that term, because basically that's how you get the bends. So, slowly but surely, we're emptying the bottom syringe. Okay, I'm going to call it there for now. All right. Now here's the beauty about SRAM syringes. I could go both ways. Now I could press down and start forcing both ways in order to feel more comfortable that I'm agitating the system enough where any small air bubbles will be forced out of tight pockets. And I can just do that back and forth until I feel that I'm comfortable. And then at the end, I could do one last vacuum. One little bubble there. And we are good. But again, that's the beauty. You could just go back and forth. Nobody says there's one way to do this, guys. There's multiple ways to do it, right? So you use vacuum and you use high pressure. You can't do that with Shimano. Plain and simple, right? Now I'm going to do a Shimano video where you're going to see essentially the SRAM process on a Shimano setup, which I think is way better than gravity bleeds. I'm not a big fan of gravity bleeds. I understand a lot of people seem to like them for some reason, but if you have syringes, you're way better off. All right, so I mean, this is done. We are absolutely done. So next, what I'm going to do, so I'm going to close the bleed port at the bottom. Close the snap. And this syringe is done. I'm going to put him on the side. All right, so now we have our top syringe. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to pressurize the system. We're going to pressurize the system and then let go, okay? What we can do is also vacuum just a little bit, just to make sure there's no little micro bubbles sitting in here. Nothing. We are good. So let's prep our screw. Okay. Close our clip. Yeah, he's in there. Now we're going to unthread him. Well, actually, before you do that, too late. I should have mentioned something that I typically do and I totally forgot, because sometimes I just forget to do stuff when I've got so many lights and the stupid cameras around me. Where's my paper towel? What you can do is take a paper towel. I should have done this from before. My apologies. Take a paper towel, put it around here in order to absorb any kind of mineral fluid, mineral oil, because you don't want mineral oil hitting paint. Stuff is very nasty stuff, really. Okay, so now, stupid camera. We're going to unscrew this. Oil's going to come out, but right? So we're completely overfilled. We're going to put our bleed screw in, and we are done. Torque them to about finger tight, which is about a Newton or 1 or 2 Newton meters. Put this guy on the side. Now we're going to take a little bit of alcohol with a clean towel. Spray them down real well. And that portion of the bleed is done. Next, let's finish everything up. So next, I'm going to take out my little syringe holder. Put that on the side. We're going to take out our bleed block. Put that on the side. I'm going to spray down the caliper real well with alcohol. We want to make sure that everything is dot fluid free, right? Because you do not want mineral oil or dot fluids on your rotors or on your brake pads. Okay. Get it all down. Okay, then I'm going to take my pads and put these back in. All right, I'm going to take the bolt, put it back in. I'm going to grab the retaining clip, put this back in, even though I got to tighten on the bolt. Okay, where's my 2.5? What do I do with it? There it is. And then, there we go, it's tight. And don't forget your bleed port cap. All right, the caliper is done. Next, let's finish up the lever. And now to finish off the lever, we had marked the position of the lever itself, right? So we're going to loosen it, and we're going to bring the markings on top of each other. Boom, just like that. Tighten it down. This needs to get torqued down. I'm going to torque it all later, but this, I torqued them to 4.5 Newton meters, but you could go up to 5 Newton meters. All right, and at the end of it, to finish it completely, we measure our distance to the handle, and I said it was supposed to be 57, so I just bring it back in. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. All right. I'm doing this upside down. Oh, I went too much. There, one more. There we go. And we are done. Fully bled, ready to go for another season. So again, guys, you should do this once a year minimum. If you ride a lot, do it twice a year. And when I mean a lot, like you put, let's say, a couple of thousand miles. This bike, I don't put as many miles on it. Again, I'm a big believer in the SRAM method for bleeding brakes. All the junk collects at the bottom. Take out the junk first from the bottom. Don't push it up, right? Don't push it upwards to the lever and then take it out, like Shimano states. And then I personally refresh the syringes, because let's face it, 1 bottle of dot fluid on average is good for minimum 2 oil changes, maximum 4. But the reality is you can't leave the bottle sitting around for a long period of time. Again, the stuff is hydroscopic. Even if you close the bottle and leave it on a shelf for 6 months, water will absorb in the dot fluid, okay? So throw it out, basically. Just go get a new bottle. Do yourself a favor. It's less headaches down the road, right? So that's why I don't mind wasting a bottle on just one oil change, basically. And that Maxima bottle was small enough, dumb that I couldn't fit the bleeding edge tool in it, but still easy workaround, right? And that's pretty much it, guys. So hopefully this works out for some people. If you like the video, press like. If you dislike the video, press dislike twice. Subscribe if you want to see more videos. Hit the bell, ding, 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 if you want to get reminders or notification of videos, all right? I have a bunch more videos coming, and looking forward to posting them and looking forward to making more. Hope all is well, and we will see you guys soon. Take care. Have a good one.